Hey, in this video I'm breaking down what to do after you have a late diagnosis of autism. All that coming up. Hey guys, welcome back to the Aspie world. My name is Dan. I have autism, ADHD, OCD and dyslexia, and I make weekly videos about this type of content. So if you're new around here, you stumbled across this video and you want to learn more, consider hitting that subscribe button by clicking the notification bell so you know when I upload videos. Also, if you're watching on Facebook, be sure to hit that like and follow button to see daily videos on this channel. In this video, I'm breaking down 3 of the most effective things to do after you have an autism diagnosis later on in life that probably no one's ever spoken to you about. Okay guys, it's been a hot minute. Oh, it's good to see everybody back here watching one of my videos again. You guys are amazing, and I have a lot of questions about this hat. I actually made this hat myself, but this is a trial version of some merch I've got coming out. So if you want to keep in touch with me about this, go over to my Instagram and Twitter and hit me up. Give me a follow on Instagram and Twitter and you'll know exactly when these hats become available. And also, I do videos on Instagram and Twitter, so yeah, make sure you do that. Okay guys, I would like to know, are you a person who had a late diagnosis of autism, or are you looking for somebody else? Please pop it in a comment down below. I read and respond to every single comment, so please do that right now. Also, if this video can help somebody, why don't you tag them in the comment section of wherever you're watching this video, if it's on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, because that would really help me reach them and maybe we can help them out as well. Okay, so I was diagnosed with autism later on in life. And I mean later on in life, not like the latest, I mean I'm not in my 70s or 80s, but I mean like when I was a kid, I had some, diagnosis and issues of things that were, issues in my life. My parents took me to different doctors and stuff, but they couldn't really diagnose me back then because the experts and the expertise needed to diagnose somebody on the autism spectrum back in like the late 80s, early 90s was kind of, well, just non-existent where I lived in Wales. And so because of that, they were able to not do it. So I just had to go through school and all those things and kind of like struggle a bit. But when I got to my 20s, eventually I went to down the process and got to the right doctors, and I got a diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome and ADHD and OCD, kind of like a comorbid. Now, and comorbid means like, together, co-occurring all together at once. And so that was kind of like an eye-opener for me. And I remember thinking, as soon as I got my diagnosis, I was like, oh my goodness, what do I do now? Where do I go from here? What do I do? I don't know anything about autism. I mean, the closest I've got to knowing anything about autism was watching Rain Man with Tom Cruise, and I was like, well, that's not even autism, that's savant syndrome. So I was completely in the dark about it, and then I didn't know how to, what do I do socially? Do I walk around with like a badge saying, hey, like I have an autism spectrum condition, or I've just been diagnosed with autism, or do I phone my friends up and tell them, like, what do you do? It was very difficult, and it's like, so the first thing I did when I got home is I went and I told everyone in my house, my parents, because I was living at home with my parents at the time, and then I told my brother, and my brother said, yeah, that's obvious. And he was like, he said that I reminded him of Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory, which is funny because I was doing a degree in chemistry at the time. And so there was a bunch of things that happened after that, and I feel like it's valuable that I share this information with you because like you'll get more from that, you know what I mean? So I'm going to go through like 3 of the things that I think are a top priority to do after you have an autism diagnosis later on in life. And the thing is, this can be used even if you have a kid who's on the spectrum and then they get diagnosed and what to do next. It can be applied to anybody, but specifically I wanted to do this for people who've had a late diagnosis, but it is compatible, don't worry. All right, let's get on. Okay, so number 1 is outreach. Now you're thinking, Dan, what on earth does outreach mean? Basically, there are different places all over the world that will have autism support groups, autism kind of charities, autism social gatherings, social clubs, events, talks, lectures, group meetings. There's a bunch of things that are happening, and what you need to do is reach out to these immediately. I didn't reach out to these immediately, and I wish I did, because when I did eventually reach out to them, and then I went to meetings and stuff like that, and I went to like lectures and things, it was just amazing. You pay like a couple of dollars or a couple of pounds to attend the meetings, and then you kind of get to enjoy other activities. Now the beauty of this is that it opens you up to support in your local areas that you would never have even thought about before, and the support is almost like you feel a relationship with those people because they have the similar traits and similar conditions to you, so you can kind of like, you understand each other way more, and then you feel less alone, less isolated. That was like one of the first things when I got diagnosed. I felt isolated. I felt like, I'm doing this alone. alone. Nobody's gonna get me. You know what I mean? It's kind of like an unusual feeling, because you feel like, that's it, is it just me doing this all on my own? So I kind of reached out and I joined an Asperger's social club group people, and it was amazing. It was probably one of the best things ever. And we went to different meetings all over, by local area, and went to different talks. We saw people from just amazing people talking, and it was so good, right? So I highly recommend doing that for a few things. Just go to Google, type in local autism or Asperger's support groups, and then type in local support groups for mental health and autism, and you'll find a list of different things, right? Especially on Facebook. Facebook's probably one of the best ones to go to. I would highly recommend going to Facebook, typing this in, and seeing what happens. Okay, so number 2, therapy. Now, people can get kind of super scared when you hear the word therapy, like, oh my goodness, therapy, like marriage therapy. It's like this thing that you mean, if you're going to therapy, you're admitting defeat, and it's not like that, not at all. So therapy, you've got to think about it in a way as, if you want to relax and you want to go to a beauty therapist, you go there and you have relaxation therapy, or you go somewhere and you have beauty therapy, or you go to a gym for body therapy, right? Therapy isn't a bad thing. It's just the way that people look at it in terms of mental health and neurological conditions. They feel it's like a scary thing, but it's not. First thing I would have done back then, which I did eventually do, is I would look for therapists in my local community or my local health board. I'd contact my health board and ask them if I can have access or referrals to therapists to help me, because regardless of when you were diagnosed, you will always have had issues and other ups and downs in your life that you'll need help and support with, and a therapist can help you with that. So therapy from autism, you can have psychological intervention, you can have counseling. There's also kind of behavioral therapies. Some people are on the fence about it, some people don't like it, some people do like it. It's all down to personal preference, and of course which type of therapy that you want to kind of use. But there are a bunch of different ones out there. I did actually do a video on autism therapies, and I will leave a link for that in the card above here, and I'll try and link it in the description below so you can see that, and I'll put it also in the end card so that you don't miss it. But in terms of autism therapies, there are a bunch of different ones around, and I'll leave that video to explain it, because I did a video all about those therapies. But I think that by hitting the ground running, looking for support, looking for therapy, looking for camaraderie from groups and stuff like that, you are becoming it's a problem shared, a problem halved, basically. And that's the kind of whole idea and the consensus with this kind of information that I'm giving you right now, because you don't want to feel alone, you don't feel isolated, and you don't feel like you're the only person going through any of this stuff, and that it's hopeless, because it's not the case at all. I'm here, I got you. Yeah. Okay, so number 3 is be open. Dan, what are you talking about? How can I, what do you mean? Be open? What does that mean? I'm saying to be open and honest with friends and family. So when I was diagnosed, one of the things that I don't know, I didn't do it straight away, which I wish I did do it, is that my friends, they would say, do this, and I wouldn't want to do that, and we get into arguments about stuff because I didn't want to do those things because I'd feel uncomfortable going somewhere with extreme social anxiety and stuff like that, and then they'd just think that I was just being a lazy idiot, and they just thought I didn't want to do those things because I was just being miserable. Well, if I'd have said to them at the time, oh guys, look, I'm actually on the spectrum, and I need you to just respect the fact that this is uncomfortable for me, and then it would have been so much more understanding. So it's kind of my own fault I didn't tell them, right? And same with family members. Not everybody in your family is just going to automatically know that you're on the autism spectrum. Why would they? You know what I mean? You have to go out there and tell them. So I would just make it a priority to tell the people that are closest to you that you have this diagnosis, and then kind of mention it when you see everyone else in passing, oh yeah, hey, by the way, I got a diagnosis of blah blah blah. And so because someone who's on the spectrum will obviously be a certain characteristic of behavior, and their family members will see that, and then they'll understand that. They'll be like, oh, there's Dan, he's an interesting guy, he does all this stuff, and he's got his quirks and whatever. But when you say oh, I've got autism, they go, oh, okay, that makes sense. You know what I mean? So it's kind of they don't expect you to be kind of to phone up straight away, but hello, I have a diagnosis. But if it's in passing, oh yeah, look, well, my quirks, well, it turns out I'm on the autism spectrum, blah blah blah, and then they'll probably have way more respect for you being completely open and honest and approachable. Imagine if they want to ask questions about it, if they want to ask how to help accommodate you, how to best support you. So say you're going to stay in your friend's house or your family member's house, and they don't live near you, and you go somewhere, they could then ask you, hey, how do I best accommodate you? So so I went to stay in my cousin's house in Portsmouth. That's my family's from Portsmouth, but I live in Wales, and so we went to Portsmouth and I stayed with them. And one of the things they said, oh, what do you want to eat? We'll get anything. And then I said the stuff I wanted to eat, and then they made a good thing about it. They all went out and they bought loads of the stuff that I like to eat, and then we all had like big dinner as a family with the stuff that I like to eat. And I kind of felt that was super awesome, and it was so nice of them to do that. They didn't have to, but they did. And that was super, super awesome. Guys, if you think that these 3 tips can help somebody who's just been diagnosed or somebody who's about to be diagnosed, please share this on their Facebook page, because that would be amazing. And also you can tweet this out at somebody, because it'd be amazing. Or you can just tag them in the post below this if you're watching on Instagram. So without further ado, guys, I will see you in the next video.